Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because today we're talking about something that happened on literally the very first day of BTS's Arirang World Tour stop in Paris, and it's already got people talking in a way that most tour stops don't manage until night 2 or 3. We're talking about Jimin, we're talking about Dior, and we're talking about an outfit that a lot of fans are convinced was not just something pulled off a rack. Stick around, because there's more going on here than just he wore something nice. Let's get into it. So let's set the scene first, because context always makes a story like this land harder. BTS is currently in the middle of their Arirang World Tour, the massive comeback tour that's been building anticipation for months after the group completed their mandatory military service and reunited as a full 7-member act. This tour has already been described as one of the biggest production efforts the group has ever put together, spanning dozens of dates across multiple continents, with a full 360-degree stage setup designed to make sure every single seat in these massive stadiums gets a great view of the show. Paris was always going to be one of the marquee stops on this run, partly because of how much history BTS has with the city, and partly because Paris itself is one of those cities where a K-pop world tour stop turns into a genuine cultural moment, not just a concert. And right on cue, day 1 in Paris did exactly that. Fans started lining up outside the venue hours before doors opened, the streets around the stadium were packed with banners, and the entire online conversation before the show even started was buzzing with anticipation. But almost as soon as fan cams and photos from the concert started circulating, the conversation shifted towards something a little more specific: what Jimin was wearing. Now, if you follow Jimin's individual career at all over the past few years, you already know that his relationship with Dior isn't some brand new development. He was named Dior's global brand ambassador back in early 2023, and since then, he's become one of the most consistent and recognizable faces representing the brand at major fashion events, from runway shows during Paris Fashion Week to red carpet appearances tied to new collection launches. This is a genuine, long-standing partnership, not some one-off endorsement deal that fizzled out after a single campaign. Over the past couple of years, Jimin has shown up again and again at Dior's biggest moments, and Dior, in turn, has consistently positioned him as one of the faces most closely associated with the brand's global identity. So when fans started noticing something a little different about what he was wearing on day 1 of the Paris tour stop, that context is exactly why people paid attention instead of just scrolling past it. The outfit itself, based on what circulated from fan accounts and concert footage, was a green hooded look, worn with a relaxed, almost off-duty confidence, the kind of styling that reads as effortless while clearly being anything but accidental. Fans who know their fashion details started pointing out styling cues that lined up with pieces from Dior's recent menswear lines, and pretty quickly, a theory started spreading online, that this wasn't just something Jimin happened to grab that day, but something custom-made specifically for him, specifically for this tour stop, specifically for this moment in this city. Now, I want to be upfront with you about how a story like this actually develops, because it's honestly part of what makes it interesting. A lot of what's circulating out of moments like this comes from fan accounts, style tracking pages, and dedicated observers who spend a huge amount of time comparing outfits pixel by pixel to past runway collections. These accounts are often remarkably accurate, and over the years, some of the most detailed fashion breakdowns of Jimin's looks have come directly from fans doing this kind of detective work in real time, rather than from official brand statements. So when you see a claim spreading that a specific piece was custom-made for him, that's often coming from this kind of grassroots fan analysis, built on genuine expertise and a track record of getting these details right, even if it hasn't been confirmed by an official Dior press release at the time the claim starts circulating. And that's exactly the kind of energy driving this particular story. Alongside the outfit itself, there was another detail that got fans even more excited: reports that Dior's global PR director was seen in attendance at the actual concert. Think about what that detail adds to the story. It's one thing for an ambassador to wear a brand's clothing to an event. It's a different thing entirely when people closely associated with running that brand's public image show up in person to watch that ambassador perform on a massive world tour stop. Fans quickly connected those two details together: day 1, a custom-looking outfit, and a senior brand representative reportedly in the building, and ran with the idea that Dior wasn't just casually associated with this tour, but was actively, intentionally present for it. Whether every single detail turns out to be confirmed exactly as fans are currently piecing it together, the broader picture here lines up with something that's been true for a while now. Dior has invested heavily in its relationship with Jimin, and that relationship shows up again and again at major moments in his career, not just at official Fashion Week events. It would honestly track with the pattern we've already seen if Dior wanted a visible presence at one of the biggest tour openings of the year for one of their most prominent global ambassadors. Let's talk a little bit about why this specific combination of details, the outfit and the reported PR presence, spread as fast as it did. Part of it comes down to timing. This wasn't some random Tuesday. This was day one of a major European stop on one of the most anticipated world tours in recent memory. Any detail that stands out on a night like that is going to get amplified simply because so many more eyes are on the event than on a typical individual appearance. When you combine a highly anticipated event with a detail that fashion-savvy fans can immediately connect to a real, ongoing brand partnership, you get exactly the kind of story that spreads across timelines within hours. There's also something to be said about how audiences engage with fashion moments involving idols who have genuine, long-term brand relationships versus one-off appearances. When an artist has spent years building a visible, consistent partnership with a specific brand, fans develop a kind of fluency in that relationship. They know the brand's aesthetic. They know past collections. They know how that brand has styled the artist before. So when something new shows up that deviates even slightly from what's publicly available in stores, or lines up with details from a runway show that hasn't fully hit shelves yet, that fluency is exactly what allows fans to spot it almost immediately and start piecing together a theory. It's also worth pointing out just how much this reflects a broader shift in how fashion moments get discovered and discussed in the first place. A few years ago, a detail like a specific custom piece worn at a concert might have taken days to get properly documented and discussed, largely dependent on official photographers releasing images after the fact. Now, with fans recording high-quality video and photos from inside the venue in real time, and with dedicated style tracking accounts ready to analyze those images within minutes of them being posted, the entire discovery to discussion pipeline has compressed dramatically. A detail like this can go from "did anyone else notice this" to a fully developed theory with supporting screenshots and comparisons within a single evening. Let's also talk about why brand partnerships like this one tend to matter so much in the K-pop and global entertainment space more broadly. For a major fashion house, having a global ambassador who also commands one of the largest, most engaged, most internationally distributed fan bases in the entire music industry is an incredibly valuable asset. Every appearance, every outfit, every red carpet moment becomes an opportunity for that brand to reach audiences across dozens of countries simultaneously, often through channels that traditional advertising simply can't replicate. Fans don't just see the outfit, they analyze it, they discuss it, they compare it to past looks, they translate commentary into multiple languages, and they keep that conversation going for days. That kind of organic, sustained engagement is exactly what makes an ambassador partnership like this one so valuable for a brand, and it's exactly why you'd expect that brand to want a visible presence at a moment as significant as day one of a major world tour stop. And on the flip side, for the artist involved, having a fashion partnership like this adds another dimension to how their public image gets discussed and appreciated. It's not just about the music anymore, not just about the performance on stage, but about a broader aesthetic identity that fans get to follow across red carpets, tour stops, and everyday appearances. For someone like Jimin, who's built a reputation not just as a performer but as a genuine style figure within the industry, moments like this reinforce that reputation every single time they happen. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the actual concert itself, because obviously the outfit and the brand buzz, while fun to talk about, aren't the whole story of what day one in Paris actually looked like. By all accounts circulating from fans who attended, the show delivered exactly the kind of spectacle you'd expect from a tour of this scale. The 360-degree stage setup means audiences on every side of the venue get a genuinely immersive view of the performance, rather than the traditional experience of half the crowd mostly watching from the side or the back. Reports from the show described high energy from the crowd throughout, with fans singing along to both new material from the group's recent album and beloved older tracks that have become staples of their live sets over the years. Paris crowds in particular have a reputation within the K-pop fan community for being especially passionate, and this show reportedly lived up to that reputation. Between songs, chants and coordinated fan project displays lit up different sections of the stadium, the kind of synchronized fan activity that's become a hallmark of major K-pop concerts around the world. It's honestly remarkable to think about the amount of planning and coordination that goes into these kinds of fan projects, all organized entirely by fans themselves, well before showtime, just to create a specific visual moment during a specific song. Given how significant this stop was being treated online even before the show started, it's not surprising that the outfit and brand-related buzz ended up dominating a huge chunk of the post-show conversation. But it's worth remembering that this all happened within the context of what was, by most accounts, a genuinely well-received, high-energy performance. The fashion story didn't happen in isolation, it happened as one thread within a much bigger night that fans are still talking about. Let's go back to the outfit story for a moment, because I think it's worth breaking down exactly why this particular piece caught so much attention compared to previous looks Jimin has worn at past events. Part of it comes down to the specific silhouette. A relaxed, hooded piece worn with a kind of off-duty, confident ease reads very differently from the more formal or overtly high-fashion looks he's worn at red carpet events tied to Dior collection launches. There's something about seeing a piece that feels wearable and grounded, while still clearly carrying design cues associated with a major fashion house, that makes fans feel like they're seeing both sides of a public figure at once, the polished ambassador and the more relaxed performer, blended into a single look. That kind of blended aesthetic tends to resonate especially strongly with audiences because it feels accessible in a way that pure high-fashion runway looks sometimes don't. Not everyone can picture themselves in an elaborate, heavily structured formal piece straight off a runway. But a hooded, relaxed silhouette, even one built from premium materials and tied to a major fashion house, feels a little closer to something people could imagine wearing themselves. That accessibility, combined with the exclusivity of it potentially being a custom piece made specifically for this occasion, creates a really interesting tension that fans clearly found compelling enough to spend hours discussing and analyzing online. It's also worth touching on how this fits into the broader pattern of how Jimin's individual style moments tend to get received by a wide audience, well beyond just the dedicated fan base. Time and time again, specific outfit choices, hairstyles, and styling decisions tied to him individually have ended up generating conversation that spreads far past the existing fan community, pulling in casual observers, fashion commentary accounts, and entertainment outlets who don't necessarily cover K-pop as their primary focus. That's a pattern worth paying attention to, because it suggests that whatever is driving these individual moments isn't just about fan enthusiasm alone. There's something about the way these specific styling choices get presented and received that manages to cross over into broader cultural conversation again and again. Let's also spend a little time on the reported presence of Dior's global PR director at the show, because I think it's genuinely one of the more interesting details in this whole story, even though it deserves to be treated with appropriate caution until anything gets more formally confirmed. If accurate, having a senior brand representative personally attend a concert like this suggests a level of institutional investment that goes beyond a standard ambassador arrangement. Plenty of brand partnerships operate on a fairly hands-off basis, where the ambassador wears the brand's pieces to major sanctioned events, and that's essentially where the relationship's visible touchpoints end. A senior executive personally showing up to a concert, on the very first night of a major world tour stop, in a completely different context from a typical Fashion Week event, suggests a genuinely deeper level of engagement and interest from the brand side. Fans picked up on this detail almost immediately, and it's easy to see why. It reframes the entire outfit story from "he wore something that looked like it might be from Dior" to "Dior may have had enough of a stake in this specific night that they sent someone to be there in person." That's a meaningfully different story, and it's exactly the kind of detail that turns a simple styling observation into a much bigger, more layered conversation about the depth of this particular brand partnership. Now, all of this said, I do want to circle back to something important, which is that a lot of what's circulating right now is coming from fan accounts, style tracking pages, and enthusiastic observers piecing details together in real time, rather than from an official statement directly from Dior confirming every specific detail. That doesn't mean these observations are wrong. Fan communities around artists like this have an incredibly strong track record of accurately identifying custom pieces and brand details well before anything gets officially confirmed. But it's always worth keeping in mind that a story like this, especially in its earliest hours, is still developing, and some of the finer details may get clarified, confirmed, or adjusted as more information comes out over the following days. What we can say with more confidence is the broader picture surrounding all of this. Jimin's relationship with Dior is real, established, and has been consistently visible for years now. The Arirang World Tour is real, and Paris was always going to be one of its biggest, most closely watched stops. And whatever the exact specifics of this particular outfit turn out to be, it's clearly part of a much larger, ongoing pattern of this specific brand partnership showing up in meaningful ways at major moments in his career. Let's zoom out for a second and think about why stories like this end up being so much fun to follow in the first place. There's something genuinely engaging about watching a mystery play out in real time, watching fans compare screenshots, cross-reference past collections, and build a case piece by piece, all within the space of a single evening. It's a little bit like watching amateur detective work happen live, except the case being solved was this specific hoodie custom made for a K-pop idol's world tour stop. That might sound like a small thing on paper, but the process of watching a community come together, share expertise, and collectively build a compelling theory is honestly one of the more entertaining parts of following these kinds of stories as they unfold. And there's also something worth appreciating about how these moments reflect the genuine, sustained relationship between an artist and their audience. The fact that fans are paying this close attention to details like fabric texture, silhouette construction, and styling choices speaks to just how much attention and care people put into following someone they admire. This isn't surface-level fandom, this is a level of engagement that involves real expertise, real historical knowledge of past collections and looks, and a genuine investment in understanding the full picture of an artist's public presentation. So where does this story go from here? Typically, in situations like this, official confirmation of details like a custom-made piece tends to surface within the following days, either through official brand social media posts, statements from stylists involved in the look, or further reporting from outlets that cover fashion and entertainment crossover stories closely. If Dior did have a more significant, planned presence at this specific tour stop than a typical ambassador appearance, we may see that reflected in how the brand talks about the tour, or about Jimin specifically, in the days and weeks following this show. And if the outfit does turn out to be a custom piece designed specifically for this moment, expect to see even more detailed breakdowns and comparisons circulating as more high-quality photos and video from the night continue to surface. Either way, day one of the Paris stop on this tour has already accomplished something that a lot of individual tour dates don't manage. It's generated genuine, sustained conversation well beyond the usual post-concert recap. Between the reported outfit, the reported PR presence, and the broader context of an already deeply established brand partnership, this has turned into one of those stories that manages to combine music, fashion, and celebrity culture into a single, highly shareable moment. Before we wrap up, I want to hear from you. Do you think this outfit was genuinely custom-made for this specific tour stop, or do you think it's more likely a styled piece from an existing or upcoming collection? And what do you make of the reports about Dior's PR leadership being present at the show in person? Do you think that signals something bigger about how this brand partnership is evolving, or is it just a normal part of how these ambassador relationships work behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, I read every single one, and I love seeing the different theories and observations you all bring to conversations like this. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications, because with a tour this massive still just getting started, you can bet there's going to be a lot more to talk about as it makes its way around the world. Thank you so much for watching, I'll see you in the next video, and until then, take care of yourselves. Bye!